Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Truth Rebellion. Really, I just got this mic. So as a result of it, I'm like recording so many episodes and so much video because I'm just so happy that I got the mic that I can't stop using the mic because I'm so excited that I have it. And now I'm recording so much video and so much content that like I'm running out of places to store it. Like the whole internal hard drive is completely filled, and my SD card is now completely filled and is running out of place. And like now I'm making this one, and I had to delete some stuff just so I could fit this one on there. And it's like, I really just gotta edit the crap out of all this. That's what really gets on my nerves, bro. I'm not gonna lie, it's so annoying. But it wouldn't get on my nerves that much if I had like a proper place to store everything and, work it around like a tight schedule. Like take this amount of time in this space over here, and that's pure for editing, and put that over there. And then recording is purely over there, whatever it is. And eventually I will probably do something like that, probably because I have to, probably out of necessity, you know what I mean? Not even just because you want to, but kind of like you have to. And it doesn't bother me that much, but usually I tend to record and then edit and then post and then record, edit, and post, right? And now because I got this new mic and I've been like making so much that I'm like typically now I've like recorded, barely edited anything, running out of space, and I'm gonna have to edit everything all at once at one time, and that's going to take a long time of editing. I don't know, this idiot is outside my window screaming at somebody, yelling for somebody, hey, to come over, and honking his horn like crazy, like, come on now. But anyways, I'm going to have to edit it all at one time, and then as a result of that, I'm going to have to post it all over the place. And really what I need is I'm gonna have to take some real time to do all of that, bro, because everything's been acting slow, and I'm gonna have to like go find some better Wi-Fi, because this Wi-Fi has been, I don't know what's up with this Wi-Fi right now today, bro. I don't know what is up with this thing. Like this thing's been going so slow, like it doesn't even want to upload like audios, like it's crazy. So I'm gonna have to go find some real Wi-Fi somewhere and sit there and just stare at a screen and edit everything all at once, because I don't want to have to keep going back and forth. And if you do that, like if you edit all these things and you let a lot of time purate and you have all these edits, then you get all of these clips and all of these videos, and they're all over the place, and then you forget which clip was what and what you said in each one. And then you gotta, when you're posting it, you gotta go back and re-watch every single one of them so that you know what you said, so you know exactly what to title it, and proofread and checking all of it. So at least for me, other people may not have that problem, but for me, I prefer to edit everything all at once and then go back and post everything. Well, maybe not post everything all at once, but edit everything all at once, and then divide them up into folders so I know what each one of them is. Divide each edit and its breakdowns and its clips and its variations in each folder so it's by itself. And then when I post it, go, and I know as soon as I open this folder, I don't got to go anywhere else to find anything else in it. Everything that's supposed to be there is in there, and all I got to do is go through and post what to where it needs to go, right? You have to be organized like that, because if you don't, then you'll be like, it's just crazy, bro. You'll be throwing clips up together that make no sense, that have nothing to do with each other, and it'll be like bouncing around, and it's like, what is he even talking about? And then like titles don't even mix with the things 444, and it gets confusing, but it'll be okay. We're just really gonna have to do all of that. So, I need to buy like a new computer, actually, for sure, and like some other things. But it's okay. We'll do it all. It'll all be there eventually, broski. But anyways, so like, I think they finally left. I think the people that were screaming like a bunch of lunatics outside the window over here, a bunch of crazies. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were talking about. Oh my God. Of course, just like I said, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Oh my God. Oh my goodness gracious. Probably have to edit that out. Okay, everybody. Hello. Welcome back. What you didn't see is that the camera fell in the middle of me talking about how if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Everything goes wrong if it can. The camera fell, and because it could go wrong, it did. Crazy. In fact, actually, in rocket science, because I took aerospace when I was in school, and they actually teach you, like one of the most famous quotes ever in the scientific world is that if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, right? And that's the funniest thing about the science world is they have all these, it's like an inside joke inside the scientific community. We have all these basically inside jokes of the fact that everything sounds like it's a super long, crazy, complicated name, but then when you really get down to the basis of it, the real most complex things are answered with the simplest terms and words, like if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Or like, what causes a plane to fly? And instead of using some huge complicated term like you think it would, it's like, oh, well, it's lift. That's what makes it fly, lift. It's kind of a joke inside the scientific community because at the end of the day, if you really know science and you really know what you're talking about, you realize, just like Congress and just like lawyers, that it's all a bunch of lingo, and the people looking from the outside in think that you got all these super secrets and you know how everything works. But the truth is, when you're on the inside looking out, you realize that everybody can do this. It's really not that hard. And we all hide behind crazy lingo. And maybe the real reason we do that is to try to pretend that we're intellectually superior to everybody else and to make everybody else feel too intimidated to come down into the wagon because they might be smarter than us and they might take our jobs if they ever learn how to figure out the way the lingo actually works. They may come down and actually show us the real way it works and show us stuff we don't even know because their gift of mentality would know what we were using saying, and then they might actually come down here and do better than us, and we'll be out of a job, and they'll shine, and we'll go down. And that's really what it is. You know, they don't want you to know that, but it is. That's why Congress uses words like fiscal cliff, right? Because they want it to sound so hard and difficult. They want you at home to be like, whoa. You know, you at home that have never been in business before, what's a fiscal cliff? What does that mean? Oh, I better not look at the way the government's spending because I don't even know what a fiscal cliff is, so they probably got it all together. I'll let them worry about that. I'll do my own thing, right? That's what they want you to do so that they can stay corrupt. Or like lawyers, legalistic terms, lingo. Oh my God, I better not look at that because, you know, I'm sure they know what they're doing. They got it, right? And scientists do the same thing, and they know they do, which is why there's a running joke like lift. Right, because they know that they do it. Everybody knows that. If you're smart, to whatever people want to call it, and are highly intelligent, but you know, not like this weird, arrogant, prideful, intellectual superiority that all these people ever act like they have, and the people that act like that are always nowhere near as smart as the people that don't act that way. What are these idiots doing outside, bro? Just hear keys and everything else. I'm like, what the heck is going on out here, bro? Anyways, people that don't know what they're talking about act that way, and the people that are actually intellectually superior don't say anything. Like, because me, I'm a pretty highly intelligent person, right? Everybody knows or thinks and knows to themselves when they know me that I am a pretty highly intelligent person. But the thing about me, though, and I was gifted and all these beautiful things, and you'd be around all these so-called highly intelligent people, and what you notice when they talk is that a lot of them say a whole lot, but there's nothing coming out of their mouths. And they have all these fancy terms, and they have all these fancy things, and they talk about all this stupid, like, weird, dumb book head knowledge. You're like, these people have no idea what they're talking about. It's just an act. It's all make-believe. They're hiding behind an act. And it's sad that you have to hide behind an act and you think that's your identity. That's really sad. It means you don't know who you are, honestly. I don't have that problem at all. I've always known who I am. It's kind of crazy, really. But when you're like that, and then you just naturally don't like people that are fake and pretend to be that way. Yeah. You. And then they try to bully people and act like they're smarter than them. And that really pisses you off because they don't know what they're talking about. And then, but what really makes you mad is when they start trying to do it to you. Like they start trying to correct you. And then you're like, I was sparing your emotions because I knew how dumb and stupid that you were and that you didn't know what you were talking about. And I didn't want to correct you in front of everybody because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. And I'm not a mean person. But now that you're trying to make everyone look and think that I'm the dummy and I'm the dumb one and I don't know what I'm talking about, now I have to intellectually bully you to show you that I was levels ahead of your mind and your way of thinking, and you had no idea what you were talking about the entire time. Just to show you, just to humble you a little bit and be like, remember who you're talking to. You're in a field, you're in a swimming pool out here, and don't forget how deep the ocean goes, right? You kind of feel like you got to be that way because these people, and they're mean, they're rude. Like, if they weren't so mean and rude to people, you wouldn't be that way. Like, if they were nice and they were humble, you wouldn't act that way. But I'm actually humble. And that's why I don't act that way. I think it's irreprehensible. It's disgusting. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. If anything, I have more confidence in people's ability to learn and know just as much as I do, as I think maybe I even have, sadly enough, like a lot of the time, I have more confidence in them, in their ability to learn than they do in themselves. And I hate that because I think a lot of people really underestimate themselves and they talk themselves out of learning or knowing anything before they even give themselves a shot at actually knowing what it means, which is why I constantly try to help people understand, or I'm constantly shoving it down people's throats and hammer it down their heads. It's all a bunch of lingo. Scientific community, business, lawyers, Congress, it's all a bunch of lingo. There's nothing special about these people, like, at all, bro. If you only understood, it's all a bunch of lingo. And if you can dedicate yourself to, it's like vocabulary. If you can dedicate yourself to going out and investigating what every single term means and what the vocabulary behind it is, if you can discipline yourself long enough to do that, because you're not going to want to do it because it's almost like reading a different language or something. Like, I don't want to read this. But if you can discipline yourself long enough, it doesn't take that long to do it, then you'll start realizing that everybody here has no idea what they're talking about. Because when you learn the lingo, then when they talk, you realize that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, now that I know, it's just like football or anything else, right? Like, if you don't know football, then you don't know what a line of scrimmage is. You don't know what a quarterback is. You don't know what a halfback is. You don't know what these terms mean. Wide receiver, what is that? What is a shotgun? What is that? You don't know what these terms mean. What's a flea flicker? You don't know what that is. What is that? What's a dime play? What is that? How do you spread a defense? What does that mean? If you don't know football, you don't know what that means. What's a linebacker? What's a safety? What's the difference between a free safety and a strong safety? You don't know these things. And so if I'm talking to you, right, lingo terms, and you don't know these terms, and I say to you, okay, what's going to happen is I'm going to snap the ball off of the line of scrimmage, and I'm going to fake hand it off to my running back while my line is protecting me, and my tight end on the end of the line, he's going to block for a short time, but then he's going to take off and run a slant route to the outside right, and I'm going to do a short to medium pass to him on the outside right. So because of that, what I need you to do is, since you're a fullback, I want you to run in front of my running back and block for him so that it looks like he's really carrying the ball, right? So if I try to explain that to you and you don't know anything about football, is what is a tight end? What is a slant route to the outside? What does any of that mean? Does that mean you're stupid or that you're an idiot? No. Does that mean that you don't possess the ability to run that route? Absolutely not. Is that what it means? Absolutely not. Does that mean that you don't possess the capabilities intellectually or athletically? I'm more athletic than almost everybody I know. That's just another fact. But does that mean you don't possess the abilities to do that? No, that's not what that means at all. It just means that you don't understand the lingo of anything I just said. So you're confused. That's what it means. Now, if you learn the lingo and then you grab and then you try to run the play and then everybody's and you look like you don't know what you're doing. But if you learn the lingo and you learn, okay, the tight end is on the outside of the line and he also duels as a wide receiver, and a slant route is literally a route is what a wide receiver, it's the pathway that they predeterminedly run on before a play is called, and a slant literally means slanted, so he's going to run in a slant to the outside right, probably maybe inside the numbers, but outside the numbers before he goes out of bounds. And a running back is the guy that typically runs the ball, that the quarterback, and he's the quarterback. And that typically hands it off to the guy that's behind them, who's a running back typically. And a fullback is usually back there and can act as a blocker or a runner. And I'm supposed to look like a blocker. And then you can kind of decipher what that means. And then if I name the play, you already know what the name is, right? And I say, you got to go through the line of scrimmage. But you don't know what that is, but now you do. And we're in the red zone and we got to get into the end zone. You don't know what any of that means, but now you do. Right? So when you learn the lingo, then all of a sudden, you realize it's not that you were intellectually incapable of understanding it, like they wanted you to believe, but you look at me and you say, well, that's great and all, but, and I tell you, like it's 1st and 10, and we are 14 yards away from the end zone, right? And then you look at me and you say to yourself, that's great and all, but if we're in the red zone and we're only 14 yards away from the red zone and it's the first down and we have the capability of picking up another one before we score, why would we run a slant route to the tight end right there when he's kind of slower and we're right there in the end zone, so you kind of need a little bit of speed edge? And why wouldn't we actually run a halfback draw right up the middle and try to see how much we can gain on the ground so we don't risk the threat of throwing an interception? Because our running back never tends to fumble the ball. Because now that you know the lingo, you intellectually say, wait, I think there might be a better way to do this, right? And that's the same for business, Congress, science, and everything else. It's all lingo, right? If you understand football, then you know what I meant. But if you don't, then it still sounds foreign to you. But I could use any example, right? Chess or whatever it is. If you don't understand queens and rooks and bishops and all that, then you're not going to understand what that means, right? Or ping pong or bowling or, whatever it is. But when you learn the lingo, you start to think and you realize half of these people have no idea what they're talking about. Like when you learn football, you realize that 90% of everybody you've ever met that played quote unquote football or is a fan of football has no idea how to play football. They don't have a clue in the world of how to run an offense. It's really the funniest thing I've ever seen. You go out there and you play football with these people like, oh, I did this and I did that and I was a quarterback and I was just blah, 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 blah. And then you go out there with them and you're like, what are these people even doing? Like, these people are idiots. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And they're like, no, what you do? And then you smack them right in the face and you drag them to the ground. So you don't know what you're doing. You're an idiot. I'll run you over. Just shut your mouth, boy. And really, truthfully, too, it's like, what are you talking about? They grab the ball and they run the ball every single play no matter what happens because they suck and they can't throw it. And then on top of that, like, they act like they're playing a soccer game or something. Like, every single person runs to the exact same place. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not how you play football. Like, they'll be on the defense, right? And then, like, instead of doing zone coverage, don't even mention zone coverage. They don't even know what that is. Don't even bring it up. Zone coverage, what is that? They don't even know what that is, okay? They always run man-to-man coverage. And when they run man-to-man coverage, if they even know what that is, if they even know what to call it. But, so, and then when they do, they don't even run that because, like, the quarterback runs off to the left and he looks like he's going to do, like, an option draw or something. And then they abandon all of their wide receivers and they all run towards the quarterback. I'm like, what are these people doing? Like, they just left like 4 people wide open, all going towards the end zone. Like, these people are about to get destroyed through the air. They have no idea. And then you're sitting back here running zone coverage because you're not an idiot. And you realize that if you leave, you're the only person defending the entire mid and long field, and they are going to score if you're not back there. You are the only shot that they don't have at not scoring. And then the quarterback on the other team, because maybe he's not so stupid, he realizes why all these idiots running over here, and then he hails it down the field because he sees 4 wide open people. But thank God that you're in the middle of the field from either side, left or right. And as a result of that, and he throws it up and tosses it up like a rainbow, that you have enough hang time on it to be able to get to wherever it is going. And you pick it off and you run it back for a pick 6. And then even though you're the only person on the defense, when you got 3 interceptions, this is a real story. This really happened to me, I guess, when I'm talking about it. When you're the only person on the defense that ever picks it off, you got 3 interceptions that game, and one of them was a pick 6, and then they go and tell everybody that you were the one that didn't know what you were talking about because you were running zone coverage and they were all running towards the running back because that's how you play football. Yeah, that's why I got a pick 6 and 2 picks, right? That's the reason. And I might add, like a true Iron Man, you're on offense as well. I think I scored more than anybody else in that entire game, didn't I? I'm pretty sure that I'm the only reason we won, but you don't know anything about that because you don't know anything about anything, really. So, it's kind of the same thing, and, other things too. You realize these people are idiots. They don't have any idea what they're talking about. And trying to throw the ball. What are they doing? And so I want to be the quarterback. The only reason they want to be the quarterback is because they want to be the star, not because they're good at it, not because they can throw, not because they have accuracy, not because they can think Not because they can decide, maybe I should throw it here or there, maybe I should abandon the traditional run route. I mean, we said we were going to go that way, but now there's a bunch of defenders there, so maybe we don't stick with the plan and we have to break it a little bit, because if I have a smart wide receiver and he sees the fact that the play is breaking down and he sees the fact that everybody's going that way and there's nobody defending him, and if he goes to the left, he'll be wide open, then a smart wide receiver is going to go to the left and be wide open so I could throw it to him and he's going to pick up 20 yards, right? Yeah, that's the thing about coaching. You can tell people where to go, but you can't teach them how to think, right? So you find out that all these so-called people that talk about sports all the time are really a bunch of idiots. Like, the majority of them have no idea what they're talking about. They're really a bunch of idiots. They're a bunch of clowns. The fools really make fun of them. But the same is true with, like, anything, okay? And the same is true with science and business and Congress and legalese, legal talk. Many of the people sitting at home, they don't understand what a $2 trillion budget deficit bill is saying. And that's because it's specifically written on purpose for you, the person at home, to not understand what it says. They do that on purpose because they don't want you to understand. They want you to look at that and think it's written in a different language and fool you into thinking that they're not the idiot that never runs zone coverage and never gets any picks. They want you to think they're not the idiot that never changes the play and sticks to it and then it gets picked off because they don't know how to throw it to a wide open person. They want you to think that they're not the idiot that has the football IQ of a goldfish and is the dumbest person on the face of the field, but has tried to convince everybody that they're not retarded, right? That's what they want. They don't want you to figure that out. Anybody that really knows football, anybody that has a high football IQ, is very well aware of the fact why you don't do any of that. These people don't know what they're talking about. And if you learn the metrics of the football IQ, right, you learn the lingo, you might find out that you're a whole lot better of a coach than 90% of people, and you just didn't know, right? And the same is true with chess, and the same is true with legalese as a lawyer. The same is true with Congress, and the same is true with business, and the same is true with science. It all works the exact same way. Term after term after term after term, math, to intimidate you into thinking that they can do a better job than you because they already know what the terms mean, so you might as well not even try, right? But the truth is that the only difference between them and you is that they studied a language and they learned how to speak it, but that doesn't make them smarter, right? Like, you speak English, you speak Spanish, and someone might know Spanish when I know English, but they might be saying a whole lot of nonsense in Spanish too, and they really don't know what they're talking about. And just because they're speaking Spanish didn't mean they had an higher IQ, right? And the same is true for legalese and business talk and Congress and all that. A bunch of people speaking a different language, a different lingo, but they really don't have any clue what they're talking about. They're just throwing stuff together out there, right? And then you have certain people that do know what they're talking about, but, they always get attacked by the opposite side for, they don't know what they're talking about. And the debate will always be, and it will never stop, and it will always continue. If you are going to be in politics, if you're going to be a congressman or a senator or governor or whatever it is, most normal people don't want to get involved in that, because they're very well aware of the fact about what I'm about to say is that you will be attacked, and there will never be a unanimous president that everybody and anybody likes. That will never happen. No matter who you are, whatever you are, it does not matter. You will always be criticized by the other side. It doesn't matter if you have the most perfect plan that anyone's ever seen in the history of the world, you will be criticized by the other side. That's just a given. So you have to come to terms with that first before you even decide to run. A lot of people do come to terms with that, and it's why they don't run. And it's because they don't feel like dealing with all of that mess. And really, the truth is, sadly, that a lot of them maybe are supposed to run, because the fact that they don't want to deal with that is proof that they're not in it for the reason of trying to get money, fame, and glory, but that they're in it because they're trying to actually fix the problem, right? People that are in it for money, fame, and glory never think to themselves, it's not worth it because I have to go through this. Because they're so greedy, like a bank robber. They're willing to put their life on the line just to make money and get power. That's the only thing that matters to them in life. They can't imagine a world where they weren't trying to chase money and power. That's a completely foreign concept to them. So because of that, they're going to always chase it. And their life is worth it because they couldn't imagine life without it, like a bank robber. And then there's super great people who will always run, even though they're in it for the right reason. Well, because they're in it for the right reason, those are your super courageous people, right? Those are your people that are in it knowing the cost because their life is on the line too. The only difference is they don't sacrifice their life for money, power, fame, and prestige. They're willing to sacrifice their life for righteousness, justice, and truth. Like your JFKs or your James O'Keefes, right? But there's a lot of great leaders, and most of America just needs to be educated. Like, really, they just need to be educated. Like, ignorance and being uninformed is one of the worst enemies of the United States of America, of the American people that exist on the face of the planet. It is really the root issue for 90% of everything we face. Can be solved. And I'll prove it to you, right? Because I say that to you, right? I'll prove it to you. People always hate you no matter what you say. Even if it's the greatest plan, I'll prove it to you. So I just said that to you, right? And a lot of people will be like, wow, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of people would feel that way. Wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Da, 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 da. Right? And the interesting thing about it is that they'll feel that way. They'll say it's a good idea. But the minute I tell them what I'm about to say, it'll get hate. And they'll say, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Because I'll say that, and then I'll produce my plan, and then someone else will come out, and they'll say exactly what I just said, and they'll produce a completely contradictory plan. The difference is mine's right and theirs is wrong. And they're a manipulator, but how is somebody that doesn't know anything about the lingo supposed to know that? They don't know that because they don't know the lingo. They don't understand the talk. They don't understand what it means. So when they look at it, they can't see why this doesn't work, why this goes here, and why that goes there. They can't see that. So like, and I know I'm super simply breaking it down to you, but that's because that's how easy it is. You have to understand me here. I'm not doing that or doing this, what I'm about to say, to insult your intelligence. I'm doing it because I'm trying to get you to really understand how dim-witted that these Congress people and these congressional people are, okay? Let's say that I said I have a block, right? Like we're back in kindergarten and we have blocks and we have circles and triangles, you know? And there is a hole in the wall that's a triangle, and the triangle goes in the triangle, and the square goes in the square, and the circle goes in the circle. And now we'll make it just a little bit more complicated than that, where we'll say there's a red triangle and a green triangle, a yellow circle and a blue circle, so on and so forth. And that there's a triangle, but there's a little thing above it that shows a red color or the green color, right? And now your job is to put the right one in there, right? It's not hard, it's not complicated, simple task. Now, if you're an infant, just born, just out of the womb, you haven't been taught anything, then you don't know the lingo of what a triangle is or what the color red is or green. You don't know the lingo. So when I tell you to pull up a red triangle, there's a good chance with 6 options that you're going to pick the wrong one because you don't know what it is and nobody's ever taught you. Now, I can tell you that and you'll say, well, that makes sense. And then I'll tell you my plan. And I'll give you an actual red triangle and say, this is the one that you use, put it there, right? And I'm doing that to actually tell you the truth, right? And then someone else will come around and they'll have an ill intent and they'll pick up a yellow circle and say, this is the red triangle. You just don't understand the lingo. Now this is what I'm trying to say. How do you decipher between the two? That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't know the lingo, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between who's telling the truth and who's lying. Because both of us sound like we know the lingo. We both understand what a red triangle means. But even though we do, one of us is purposefully trying to actually give us a red triangle, and the other one is trying to give a yellow circle. So how do we find out who's the deceiver? Well, the answer is that you have to know the lingo. Is the infant too stupid to know the difference? He doesn't have the intellectual capability to understand the difference between a red triangle or a yellow circle? Absolutely not. Not at all. 100%. He just doesn't know the lingo. He doesn't know this is yellow, that's red, this is a circle, that's a triangle. He doesn't know that yet. So he can make what looks like a dumb decision, but it's not because he's mentally incapable. It's because he doesn't know the lingo. That's the simple thing. All it was the meaning of a word. All it was lingo. Right? And so as a result of that, how do I know who's being malicious and who's telling the truth? Well, I learned the lingo, right? Because if the toddler, the infant, learns the lingo and he learns what is universally accepted as a triangle, what is red, what is yellow, what is a circle, then it becomes really clear to him that when someone starts trying to hand him green squares, that person is either a liar or a complete idiot, right? If he hands me green squares, it's because he's either lying to me or he's a complete idiot because he knows the lingo, but he doesn't understand that a green square doesn't fit inside of a red triangle, right? And that's what it is. So when you learn the lingo, you become very aware that it's not that nobody knows how to fix the problem. It's just that one side is telling the truth, the other side is lying, and they both know the lingo, so I can't decipher which one is telling me the truth and which one isn't. But when I learn it, it becomes blatantly obvious that there's nobody that knows the lingo that is dumb enough to make this choice, okay? Now, that's what I say with this. When I tell you the perfect economical plan for the United States of America is capitalism, right? When I tell you that, and that's the truth. And I can explain to you how a free market economy works, how it's always worked, how it always has since the time it began. It's never failed. How socialism and communism always fail. And I can provide example after example after example. And when someone says, name a successful capitalistic country, I say, oh, it's really easy. The United States of America, the greatest economy in world history, right? Or I can provide example after example of socialist nations that were third world countries, like Singapore, that became capitalist countries and became first world countries in a matter of a decade, from mud huts to skyscrapers, like Singapore, who are now first world countries. And I can give flip examples of very prosperous countries that were capitalist, like Venezuela, that became socialist trash-eating hellholes when they became socialist countries, like Venezuela or Cuba. And I could do that all day. And then I could give you examples of capitalists that have always been capitalist and prosper as a result, like the United States, and socialist countries that always fail because they turn into tyranny, or have economically collapsed, like the Soviet Union, or have turned into a tyrannical government, like communist China, that relies on trade deals with capitalist countries, or they wouldn't be able to survive economically, like communist China. And I could also give to you examples of how socialism and communism have killed over 100 million people in the last 100 years, that they're directly connected to atheism, and therefore atheists have killed more people on the planet than religion ever has, but from Joseph Stalin to Mao and so on and so forth. And I can show you that there's no such thing as democratic socialism, because it always turns into tyranny. The elections are always rigged. And I can show you that the most socialistic, the biggest arguments for socialism in the modern day sense are like Norway and Finland and all of those countries in Europe that they try to say are proved examples of socialism. And I can show you that America pays for the entire military of those countries, that NATO provides all of the military for those countries, so they don't have to pay for their own military. They're relying on the prosperity of a capitalist nation, the United States of America, that has become so prosperous because of capitalism that they have more than enough not just to have the largest military in the entire world, but to go and pay for all of the militaries of all the countries in Europe as well. And it's because Finland and all these countries don't have to pay a military that they can even be sustaining. And I could tell you that they have a 100% sales tax, meaning that if a coffee is $4, it's $8 there. If you want to buy a basketball for $10 there, it would be $20. If you have a $15 meal here at Wendy's, then it's a $30 meal there. If you want to buy a $10,000 car, it's at $20,000. If you want to buy a $500,000 house, there you spend $1 million on it because they have a 100% sales tax. And I could go into all these things all day. Example after example after example. But if you don't understand the lingo, if you don't know what capitalism is, if you don't know what a free market economy is and what that actually means, and the real world linguistic examples of what it means, and the same for socialism and the same for communism, if you don't understand these things, then when I tell you it's a lingo problem, and a socialist or a communist tells you it's a lingo problem, then you hear, well, it's a lingo problem. And then I tell you a red triangle is a red triangle, and they tell you a green square is a red triangle. But if you don't know the lingo, all you know is that both of them say it's an informative problem, it's an education problem, it's a lingo problem, and one of them says capitalism, and one of them says socialism and communism, and I don't know which one's which. The only way for you to get educated on that subject, and I'm telling you this, and now, the thing is, because of a lot of socialists and communists, you won't even listen to what I say because I told you I was a capitalist. You were with me all the way up until the point you heard capitalist. And is that not a brainwashing? Is that not brainwashing? So, what I'm telling you as a human to human being, study economics. Now, economics are unbiased. It's all about numbers. It's all about money, and it's straight down the middle. Right? They talk about communism, socialism, and capitalism. Talks about everything. Straight down the middle. But the reason why I tell you to study economics is because that's the lingo. If you study economics, you will learn the lingo of what all the terms, micro and macroeconomics, you'll learn what all the terms of capitalism and everything that's inside of them is, socialism, everything inside of them, communism, everything inside of them. And when you do that, I'm just letting you know now that when you really actually study economics for what they are, it's no different than you studying colors and shapes, and then you learn that a red triangle is in fact a red triangle. And then you'll look at a socialist that says it's a yellow circle, or a communist that says it's a green square, and the very thought you will have in your head is the only way that this person thinks that that is true is, one, they don't know the lingo. That's called ignorance. Those people can be forgiven. Or two, they are lying to me, and that shows malicious and ill intent, and they don't want me to know the lingo so they can control and manipulate me. That's what I think about all the people that push the far left radical agenda and that run the Democratic Party currently. Or that this person is a complete idiot. They may not have malicious intent or not know the lingo. They're just so stupid that they're just dumb enough to think that this square is going to fit inside of a triangle hole when it doesn't. It clearly does not. They're just dumb enough to think that printing money does not cause inflation, even though economics proves that it's a law of economics and always has been, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So you have to learn the lingo for your own sake. So that way you don't have to come to Joshua and ask him what something means and get his viewpoint and hear everything that you are afraid might be filtered through his free market capitalist mind. And you also don't have to go listen to Bernie Sanders and everything that is filtered through their completely propagandized socialistic communistic mind. And you can learn all of the lingo yourself. And I am confident enough that when you learn all the lingo yourself and all the economics, it becomes blatantly clear that communism and socialism don't work and have never worked, and capitalism is the only economic system that has ever produced prosperity for your average everyday citizen. Before capitalism was introduced, you had classes, you had wealth classes, and you had like caste systems like in India, and whatever you were born into, that's what you stayed into. No capitalist country in the world has a system that whatever you're born into, that's what you stay into. Capitalism destroyed the caste class definition system of birth. It destroyed that and turned it into, you could be poor, you could be born poor and become a multi-billionaire. And you could be born a multi-billionaire and go flat broke. That's what capitalism did. Socialism did not do that. Communism did not do that. What socialism and communism did was that it replaced this is really what it did. And this is the horror and the evil behind socialism and communism. What it essentially did was that it replaced a in-your-face caste system where you knew wherever you were born, that's where you stayed, and there's no difference. It replaced that caste class system that Karl Marx pretends to speak out against, and it replaced it with a subliminal, under the radar caste class system. All it did was it pretended that it was taking away the caste class system and just reinstated it in a different form, to where now it was all the people that were born into the political ruling family and all of their advisors and their politicians and the head of their armies and the head of their organizations that were on their side with undying loyalty. They were all the upper rich class, and everybody else was the lower class. Completely got rid of the middle class and made it either ultra rich or ultra poor. That's what socialism did. That's what communism did. And that's true and seen in every single socialistic and communistic society since the dawn of time. It's a constant reoccurring law of socialism and communism. Now, as a result of that, socialists and communists will say, that's not true. See, because you don't see any wealthy people. Joseph Stalin was broke. Mao doesn't have any money. President Xi is rolling around in pig slop. Fidel Castro is eating trash in the streets with the people. Kim Jong-un is homeless. Because it never created a class system. It never created a caste system. You can be born outside of their inner circle and get rich. Or if you're born inside their inner circle, you're gonna wind up eating trash in the streets. It created a caste system. The only difference is that it made it a subliminal caste system. It made it 10 times worse because what it actually did was it combined the rich class with the political ruling class, and it just made them have both wealth and political power instead of one or the other. So now they're twice as more powerful, and that's why it creates tyranny, because now they own the business and the politics, right? And that's what capitalism was created to stop. Capitalism was created to divide purposefully the rich from the political limelight so that those who have money don't control the government and those who are in the government don't control the money. That's what it was meant to do. It was meant to create a power balance and also to create the opportunity for people to be born in lower class systems and achieve prosperity systems. and to create consequence for those who are created in upper class to fall down if they don't solve it. That's a part of the problem. It also essentially created the middle class, because the middle class is what keeps people from either being ultra rich or ultra poor. Now, I, an outspoken capitalist who plan on being a multi-billionaire one day, of course I'm a super ultra capitalist, right? That's the only way that my mind even thinks. And I don't see any purpose for a middle class or a lower class. And when I say that, that doesn't mean get rid of the lower class people. I would never think that. I just think that all of them should be rich. Get rid of the middle class. No, make everybody rich. There should be no lower class or middle class. Everybody should be rich. Unfortunately, not everybody will be rich, and that's for a variety of different issues. But in a capitalist country, a lot of those issues are because the people themselves don't make themselves rich, right? That's not true across the board, and it's not true in every single system. Like if somebody was born in North Korea, I don't think I would blame them for starving to death. But in America, it's really up to you how far up that pole you go. And that's the beauty of capitalism. Now, socialists and communists will say, doesn't capitalism breed poverty? That's why they hate capitalism, because they say it breeds poverty. Interestingly enough, they cannot provide one socialistic, communistic country in the history of mankind that did not have poverty. The truth is, like Jesus said, the poor will always be amongst you. The truth is that poverty will exist in every single economical class, always has from the dawn of time, does right now, and always will, no matter what economical class that is. That's just a fact of life. That's not an inherent effect of capitalism. And it's not a problem that socialism or communism can or has ever or ever will solve. Capitalism has actually caused the quote-unquote spreading of wealth. Capitalism is responsible for more people becoming billionaires and millionaires than any other class system that has ever existed. If you look at the amount of millionaires and billionaires inside the United States of America and all capitalist countries on the face of the earth right now, and compare that to millionaires and billionaires that have ever existed in every single other one, not just communism and socialism, and that's an easy win, but just take every economical class in the entire history of the world, combine them together, and America alone, without the other capitalistic countries, has produced more millionaires and billionaires than all of those countries in all times, in all history combined together. If you bring in all the other capitalist countries like Singapore and so on and so forth, then it's so far out there, it's like not even talked about, right? They also, not just more billionaires and millionaires, but they also created more upper class people that make over $500,000 a year. More upper class people that make over $3. More upper class people that make over $1. They created the middle class. People that make 80 or above, 60 or above, 50 or above. Right? And the upper lower working class. 40 and above. They made all of those. Capitalism made all of those. In socialism and communism, there's no middle class, and all the upper class people are in government. So all the normal everyday people are making 15 or lower. They're the lower class. They're all on welfare. You understand? And that's what communism and socialism is. It's welfare for the whole country. That's what it is. You understand that, right? It's everybody lives in HUD housing. Not socialism and communism is not everybody moves out of HUD housing and gets a mansion. It's everybody moves into HUD housing and there's no room for anybody to have anything except people that are in the government. It's everybody gets food stamps. but they get no money to buy food. So they're limited to however much food the government decides to give them that month. It's that everybody gets health care, but they don't get professional health care where they're in and out of the hospital, they see someone at the emergency room in 30 minutes or less, but they get VA, which is government-run health care. Health care where they sit on a waiting list for 15 years and never see anybody, right? And they get government-ran education, which are essentially indoctrination camps. Okay, so let me explain something to you, right, real quick. A lot of people will say, Canada's healthcare system is superior because they have free healthcare. Actual facts also, Canada is bankrupt because they have free healthcare. They're in the hole because of their free healthcare. They are absolutely bankrupted as a result of that free healthcare. Secondly, the average wait room in Canada for the emergency room is well over an hour and a half. It's up to 2 or 3 days in some places. Actually, most people in Canada, if they live near the American border, if they have an actual serious problem where it's a life or death situation, they need to be seen right away, they will drive south of the border and go to an American hospital because they know it'll only take an hour and a half to be seen, because that's what free healthcare does. It becomes inferior healthcare. Just like the VA, because it's government ran and everything the government touches turns to crap, right? And that's just the truth. And then they'll say free education. Yeah. Well, the reason why we're even having a debate about HB1 visas, and the reason why we're even talking about foreign exchange students coming from all over the world to the United States of America, is because America, world-renownedly, has superior universities to the entire world. You realize that, right? And they're all private ones. You know, Harvard and Princeton and Yale and all of those places, which... maybe if you're a little bit smarter than the average bear, you think that they're all running on hot air anyways, and they're all filled with a bunch of dummies, because they really are. But by the world standard, those are the top universities, supposedly. And they're all privatized universities, right? All the people want to leave the public universities, the free ones in their countries, to come and take the private ones and spend money on ours, because they think that ours are better, because that's what happens with public education, right? And then they'll say, well, that's just because they know America's is better. Why? Because America's more prosperous and the center of everything. Correct. Now explain to me again, why would you want to abandon an economical system that turned America into the richest country on the face of the earth? Why would you want to abandon an economical system that the whole world wants to come to so much that you create open borders, and that all the foreign exchange students significantly know that your colleges are better because you're the most prosperous country in the world? You have the biggest military in the world because you are so prosperous. The entire world does what you say because you are so prosperous. You are that superpower, and you did it in a shorter amount of time and period than any other country's ever done it in the history of the world. Why would you think that it's a good idea to abandon the economical system that turned you into that? Why do you think it's a good idea to abandon the economical system that created a small 13-state, 13-colony piece of land on the northeastern hemisphere ocean of the United States in 300 years into the number one world dominating superpower empire that dominates the entire world politically, and militarily, and economically? Why would you want to think that it's a good idea that the system that did that is the problem? That's the problem. The problem isn't the introduction of the ideas of systems that oppose that. And since those systems have been introduced, you see the decline of American economies, American education, and the rise of debt, right? You don't see those before you hear a capitalist, socialistic debate. You don't see those before you hear communistic and socialistic programming and indoctrination. You see those after they're introduced. Isn't that interesting? And why would you want to choose the thing to replace it as the economy that caused the USSR to fall economically? That caused President Xi in China to suffocate babies because their citizens had to only have as many babies as they tell them to have. That caused Cubans to eat trash out of the streets, and they all came to Miami, and now Florida votes red every single election. Why would you think that replacing it with Kim Jong-un's North Korea, where at night from outer space, the entire North Korean country is black, and the entire South Korean capitalist country is lit up like a Christmas tree because they have lights, and Kim Jong-un doesn't let anybody have lights after 9 o'clock. Only his palace has lights after 9 o'clock. Why would you think that socialism, which, by the way, was a Nazi thing, right? Nazi. Hitler wasn't no socialist. Yeah, no, actually he was, because Nazi, Nazi, that's a German word, right? And that German word, when you translate it into English, that Z becomes an S, and that S stands for socialism. It's literally in the party's name. Well, just because it's in the party's name doesn't mean that's what it is. Oh, kind of like the word democratic before democratic socialism, when Bernie Sanders talks. Just because the name Democratic's in it doesn't make it democratic, right? Is that the same thing? Or is that just a different rule? It's just different laws, right? But actually, Nazi Germany was in fact socialistic, because if you study Adolf Hitler and what he did when he came to power, he took control of the privatized economical factories and forced them to do what he wanted them to do, which, by the way, if you didn't know, is the express definition of socialism. He was a socialist. The more you know. Crazy. He actually came from the left wing. You know, it's called the German Workers' Party. That word, you get workers. It's the same word that they used with the Democrat Workers' Party, right? Because it comes from the left wing. Adolf Hitler was a left wing person. He's a left wing guy. And so fascist, blah, 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 blah. Fascist is a political ideology. Socialist is an economical ideology. You can have both of those present at the same time. You realize that, right? That's why America is a democratic republic, constitutional democratic republic, but they have a economical system called capitalism, right? And really, on top of that, you know, because, you know, people call America a democracy, and other people are like, it's not a democracy, it's a republic. We have to call it a republic. Okay, listen to me. The reason why they call it a democracy is, you know as well as I do, that that's because we vote. And democracy came from a voting idea. Is America a republic? Sure, because you just have to look at the definitions of it, okay? Let's just break this down real quick. No country from the history of time, no empire fits into a true democracy, true republic, true any type of ideological narrative. All of them are overlaying mixtures of each other because they're their own thing every single time in time, okay? So when you look at the definitions of a republic, the definition of republic is where a small group of people rules over the majority of the people. Okay, that's a republic. And a democracy, in its truest form, is that the people vote on every single issue that ever comes up. Okay, that's a democracy. Now, America has versions of democracy and the republic. We are a republic in the sense that we have a Congress, a small group of people that rules over a large group of people. But democracy in the sense that we vote for people. So, more accurately, we are a democratic republic, right? That's what I would call us, a democratic republic. And that's where you get that word Democrat from democratic, right? And that's where you get that word republic in from republic, right? So we're a democratic republic with a constitution. We're a constitutional democratic republic. I mean, that's what I would call it. It doesn't really matter what you call it because, like, you know, these are just words and terms that are thrown out there and they change as every year goes by, right? But I would call it a democratic republic because I wouldn't call it just a republic because there are republics where you don't vote for who's going to be in Congress and they just rule over because they just choose to, right? You know, so I don't know that I would, it's definitely not a true republic. Democracy had an influence on it. So I call it a democratic republic with a constitution. It doesn't really matter what you call it. It's stupid names. Who even cares? Right? It doesn't really matter. Nobody really does that. I mean, I love you guys, and I know a lot of people that are saying and doing that. They're Republicans, and, you know, they love America, and they're capitalists, and they're patriots, and, you know, they're trying to destroy communism and all that, and that's great and wonderful. But I just want to let you know that only nerds do that, right? Only economical, political history nerds, buffs and nerds do that, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not an insult. I'm just saying, like, you know, if you're a political, economical history nerd, you know, you just know if you are. I don't think that I would ever call myself one of those because it's hard for me to sit there and study every single thing that has to do with politics around the clock like that. But some people are like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not an insult. They were meant to be that way. They're supposed to be that way. They got to be that way because if they don't do it, nobody else is going to do it, right? And they're the people that are, America's a republic, it's a republic. And I'm like, look, I get it. I understand what you're saying. But, like, the only reason I don't think it's that big of a deal is because, like, 90% of everybody at home, they don't care. I mean, they don't. And when I say they don't care, I don't mean, like, they don't care about your mission to keep America capitalist and to stop communism, and they think you're an idiot for talking about it. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that one word difference is not going to change their ideological belief about whether or not they should be a communist or a capitalist country. So instead of talking about that and trying to use it as a base